How you doing today?
I am doing wonderful, and may I say Happy Memorial Day.
And
Let's
happy
start with
Memorial
that.
Day to you. I don't know if you have a beverage with you, but cheers to
I
you.
do. I have a cup of tea here,
Very
and
good.
want to take a moment to thank all of the active and retired and those that paid the ultimate price that served for our country. Today's the day to remember them, so it's important to take a moment there between your barbecues and all the celebration and remember Memorial Day and thank the soldiers that served the country.
Well, thank you for
So
saying that, Jason. I think I read something today and it really struck me. It said, all gave some and some gave all. And
yep.
that, wow, it's just those few words really can really do it for you. And, as voice actors, maybe that really says something. Just a few words can go a long way. So thank you for that sentiment, Jason. Let me go ahead and introduce the podcast. This is the hashtag VO podcast, and we do say hashtag. It features interviews with Twitter's VO artists of all stripes. I'm looking to interview beginners all through professional level artists, people who have been in the game for decades, just like our artist today, Jason, and from all over the world as well. I'm looking for international stars as long as I can communicate with you in the language that I'm able to speak. I would love to interview you and have you on the show. So I am the host of the podcast. My name is Dan Simpson. You can find me on Twitter at iDanSimpsonVO. And you can also find Jason Watt. Excuse me, am I saying that right? Jason
yeah,
Watts. It's
like the light
singular,
bulb.
just the one.
Yeah, just like the
Jason
light bulb.
is on Twitter at Jason Watt VO as well. Jason, thank you again for being here. How you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. It's a pleasure. I understand I'm your second interview person, so I feel good. Second is in the voiceover business, second isn't great, but it's better than third. So, I'm really excited about being on here and sharing some of the stuff that I've learned, and it's a pleasure being here.
All right, Jason. Well, thank you so much. If you don't mind, I'm just going to go ahead and launch into some questions. My goal here is to enlighten the VO community in some way. I know there's tons and tons of people who are like myself, who are just launching into the VO game. I'm going to turn my speakers off. I didn't realize those were on. I've been wearing headphones the whole time. That happens all the time to me. I don't know about you. And like I was saying, I'm betting there are tons of people who are just like me who could find this podcast to be valuable by sort of doing what I'm doing, which is virtually meeting with tons of people in the VO community, and I'm gonna pick your brain, and I'm gonna try to find out what I can learn from you, and of course, what everyone else can learn from you as well. And I'm sure there's a rich variety of lessons to be learned. So I'm going to go ahead and launch into this, Jason. Again,
All right.
thank you. I love you. Let's go for this. So when did you first start doing the VO business? When did you first start launching into that?
In some ways, it's unique. There's a handful of us that actually are second generation voiceover artists, and I'm one of them. My father was a voiceover artist, and I grew up in New Jersey, so my place to work was New York City, and I spent 20 I grew up there basically, and then I started in the business. I got my first job in voiceovers actually in 1989, and it was my first union job, and it was a union demo. So it's about the least you could get. So that's how I got into the union from there. And it started in 1989, but I grew up with a man. His name was Stan Watt, and he was very well known in the business. So I was able to watch a lot of the greats growing up, and some of the great announcers. I'd be able to go to the booths and watch him work, and it just was something that just excited me from the beginning. And I guess you could say I kind of followed in my father's footsteps. My route went slightly different. I started really doing well and being successful in the commercial world and some promo work, whereas my father was a narrator for National Geographic, and he did history, military blunders. He had these just amazing hour-long programs where, he would be in the Serengeti Desert you know, alone with the lions and the tigers, will they survive? And I used to love that stuff. And unbeknownst to me, he was, going, gosh, Jason, I wish I could have the Burger King campaign or whatever. Or I wish I could do Twizzlers. So, but we were all doing our own thing, and it was just a lot of fun to be in that environment starting out in New York City. And so much has changed since 1989 in the voiceover world, and we can talk about that a little bit. But I started in 1989 and spent years in New York before I moved out to the Southwest here, and now I live in southwestern Colorado.
Do you remember, Jason, what your first VO was? You said it was 1989. It was a demo for the union. Tell me about.
No. It was a union spot. So it was a SAG's union. It was a union spot, and it was a voiceover demo. Oh wait, I should say, it was a demo for radio. So I believe it was it was SAG. So it was a demo, non-air demo, which meant it never made it to the air, and it was for Alka-Seltzer Plus, and I played a young senator. I think I said, "Yes, sir," something like that. That would be the first words. I kept the script for years. It's like I should have kept the first dollar bill that I ever made my first job on, but I kept the script for years. But then I've moved a couple of times and I lost it. So, but that was it. Alka-Seltzer.
That
Plus,
is,
I believe.
great.
Yeah.
I love that bit. I'm glad I asked. Okay, so. You were talking about getting into the business, and you've talked about how you've been in the business for a long time. And I love how you said the word second generation. Second generation implies there's another generation, and I feel like I must be in that generation. What's the difference between when you started and what's going on now?
Well, so much has changed and so much has evolved, and I would preface this by saying I spent from 1989 to 2003 as a full-time voiceover artist. Then my wife and I did what many people considered a crazy thing, and I moved out to the Southwest, not to continue to pursue voiceovers, because at that time, the possibility of being able to continue to work with my New York-based agents and do all that stuff in what was to be southern Utah. We moved out, and I spent 10 years with my wife working for a not-for-profit organization called Best Friends Animal Society. And I actually went in as a videographer. I started the video department. So I had to kind of relearn. It's what I did in college, and had to learn to become a editor and a videographer and stuff like that. And as it progressed along, Hurricane Katrina hit, and we were all of a sudden in the big spotlight because we were the only major animal rescue group down there saving animals. And National Geographic went, hey, we want to do a TV series. And I was fortunate enough to start working with these high-level people on that level as a videographer. And I did that until 2011, so it was just under 10 years. And when I moved to Colorado, I spent 4 years here working for another company in media production. But I just kept that it was actually an interesting story. I hired a woman in Arkansas by the name, and I'm going to give her props for this because she's amazing. Her name is Jen Sweeney. And I happened to just, I casted her for voiceover, and I went through an agent to find or recommend. And I said, listen, I used to do this, but can you make a living doing this? And she goes, absolutely. I said, really? And then she started telling me what she was doing, how she was doing it, the fact that everything was working out of her home studio in Arkansas. And this is a major player. She does promo work. She's got commercial work out. I mean, she's and that she really was the impetus for me to go back into it. And in essence, I restarted the career because coming back from 2003, from 2000 pretty much in 13, when I really came back in full time, so much had changed. So that was sort of the evolution over the last couple of years. And here I am now in 2015 with a home-built studio that I built out of, we have a little ranch here in Colorado where we live. And I live where I want to live on my terms, and I'm able to do this successfully. So I'm super, super blessed to be in this position to do this. So.
Well, wonderful, Jason, and congrats to you. I'm sure there are many people who are in my position who are just really supremely jealous, and in a way. But we're determined, and we want to learn, and we want to pick your brain and get as much as we can from you. Hey, you mentioned that Stan Watt. He was your father, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. He was in the business. He was in the voiceover business.
Yeah.
Is he part of the first generation of voiceover artists? Is that sort of how that kind of works out?
He was of the same generation of the Don LaFontaines and Hal Douglas and Don Pardo, and Peter Thomas is another one. These are guys that are now and my father passed, I think about 8 years ago, but he would have been in his late 80s now. And these were guys that started as actors. And that's what I did too. I first started in New York as an actor. I just wasn't booking, I was working real hard to try to do it. But ultimately my jobs came with the auditions that I did, not for on-camera commercials, but for voiceovers. My father was the same way. He was an actor. He did Broadway shows. He did off-Broadway. He did some television, but he made it in voiceovers. And back then it wasn't very glamorous. There really weren't celebrities that came in. There were kind of a handful of these guys that would do it. And I remember one time being at a recording studio with like five of the top guys, and they'd get a phone call and they'd say, "Hey, this is, McCann Erickson's calling. Anybody got a soda conflict? Oh, Stan? Okay, yeah, they need you to do some spots for Coke." And boom, they do it. I mean, it would be something like that. Because nobody wanted to do it because it wasn't, the being a movie star, and it wasn't the glamorous thing. But these guys were just, and a lot of them were what we would consider announcers. So there's still announcers out there, and there's still a call for that kind of announcing sound, more so in the promo world and not so much in commercials, because, as we all know now, everybody wants to sound conversational and everybody wants to be real, but they still want to make sure that their product gets sold. So, there's that balance that you have to find. Yeah. But that's kind of how it started. So he probably was the first generation, and guys, I'm 48 myself, so I'm sort of, there's guys that are just starting out that are in their 20s, just like I was when I started 20 plus years ago. So you're probably, depending on your age, either the third generation or maybe even fourth generation, but
Cool. Thank you, Jason. Wonderful. You say so many really cool things, and I'm loving just chatting with you here. This is really, really fun here. Oh, it's my pleasure. Oh, my pleasure here. Let's keep going. You said you built a home studio. You built a booth at home. What was that like? Was it worth it?
Yeah, I personally think it was. My whole plan was I wanted to create exactly the same environment that I had when I was in New York City. So when I walked into the studio in New York, there were certain microphones that they used, and we can talk about microphones. I happen to have certain kind of microphones that I use, and I use them because they work best for my voice. And that's the key. You don't have to spend a ton of money. I just happen to have some of the higher end microphones simply because I use them in studios. They work really well. This is kind of a new addition, this one right here. This is a TLM-103, which is sort of the younger brother of the, and that's made by Neumann. It's the kind of the son of the Neumann U87, which is what I have in my main booth. And I use that because it works very well with my voice in there. But I wanted to create the same kind of environment. I was fortunate to have a buddy of mine here that he and I were actually working in media production, and he had worked in recording studios in Los Angeles. So he had built studios. So I was like, I want to do this. You know, you can go out, you can invest. There's some great things out there. They have whisper rooms and other products that you can do. I kind of wanted to do this myself with his help, because I felt, you know, when you build something yourself and then you look at it and even you see the little imperfections in it, you know, it reminds you of what you did. And this was a targeted thing. This was for me to get back into the business. It was a targeted, took me about 18 months before I could really get to a level where I could say, okay, I'm full-time again. And this is, you know, this is all I'm doing. This is what I do. I go to work every day. Even if I don't have work, that's what I did for 18 months. And we can, I'd like to talk about that to some extent, because I think the mindset and everything is critical in this business. You have to have the talent, and you get the talent by working hard. And when you're done working hard, then you work hard. And then when you're done working hard, you work hard, and you keep at it, and you keep at it, and you keep at it. And you never settle for just okay, because there's going to be somebody else out there that is not settling for okay, that will be the one that gets that job if you don't. And part of that is always pushing yourself. And I have coaches. I have a couple of coaches that I use, and I highly recommend continuing education no matter what level you're at, because there's always something that you can learn from somebody else. So that's kind of the roundabout way about the booth, but there's some other elements that came into that.
That's really cool. No, I'm sure there's a lot of people, obviously like myself, who are looking forward to building a booth. Some people maybe don't have the funds. What would you say to someone who maybe wants to buy or maybe build a booth, but they can't buy a whisper room? They can't go the full distance. Are they just completely out of luck? Is there some other way they can build something for themselves in their own space so that they can work from home? Any suggestions for those folks?
You can start in a closet. And when I travel, you know, I originally got Harlan Hogan's Porta Booth, and I tried it a couple of times on the road, and honestly, I found when I was traveling, I found just as effective for me. I usually stay at the same chain of hotels. I stay at Hampton Inns when I travel, and so I know their setup. Their setups are pretty much the same. I'll just set it up, and I'll get some blankets, and I'll put it into the closet, and I'll have a do not disturb sign. And I've done, you know, I remember one time doing this promo. It was a last minute promo. I wasn't expecting it. Fortunately, I brought all my stuff, and I literally just recorded it in the booth, and then it was on air that same night. Wow. So it was, and this is not uncommon. You know, you'll find this. But the Porta Booth is good. It all depends on what you have. Like, yeah. Right now I'm outside of my booth. There's a little bit of echo, but could I record an audition here if I wanted to? Yeah, I could. But unfortunately, I'm out kind of in the mountains of southern Colorado, so I don't have to worry about buses going by or all that kind of stuff in the city like you do in Chicago. But a closet away from the windows is a great start. You don't have to do it. You just build it. As you gain momentum, as you gain success, as you start making money, then you take some of that money that you've earned, and you take that money and you apply it back into your craft. Because it's, you know, for me to be able to pay for a microphone because I did a couple of commercials, and I know that I did a couple of commercials that allowed me to buy that microphone, to me, is a lot more satisfying than feeling I have to go run and take a loan somewhere, you know, and so it's doable at various different levels. You know, you could definitely start, and then you build it up as your career builds up.
All right. So I guess the idea is that early in your career, you gotta, you know, just work it out. Maybe get into the closet if you do need to, and then when you're ready to come out to your friends that you're a voice artist, you can come out of the closet and
Absolutely
build a booth.
Celebrate it. Start in the closet, and you don't have to go to, if they still have them in the larger cities, go test out microphones that work well for you. I know that I've heard good things about Rode microphones, RODE. I don't have any myself. I started actually with an Audio Technica that I used for years. It was an Audio Technica AT4033. Sounded really good. It was very close to the Neumann, but I wanted to get back to the Neumann eventually, and I was able to, because that's what I wanted to do. I knew that worked well. And then I also use a Sennheiser 416, but I use that for promo work because it's specific to that. And I've talked to a lot of people, including some promo producers, and in fact, I worked with one, and I had switched the microphone from a U87 to the 416 when I got it, and he goes, "Yeah, I mean that's what we want, thumbs up." So, but again, I believe Rode has a comparable version. You don't have to break the bank to do that, especially when you're starting out. You're doing so many other things. I do encourage you to look at this as an investment and as a schooling. If you want to become a voiceover artist, you have to get some lessons. You have to get some education. You have to get either from coaching or podcasts, or there's great books out there, online resources. There's numerous guys. Dave Quavassier has a great book out, and Terry Daniel is a great coach. I think Dave also teaches as well, but Dave kind of gives you all the mistakes that he made, and he's sharing it with you, including predatory producers and all that stuff, because you want to be trusting and everything, but there's unfortunately people out there that want to take advantage of that and want to offer you, in 5 easy lessons, you can become a superstar. And that's just not realistic. You've got to put in a lot of time and a lot of effort to do this. So it's important. Now, when I started back after pretty much what I would consider like my 18-month ramp up, even though I wasn't full-time, in my mind, I was a full-time voiceover artist. Every day I went to work. Even if I did not have a job, I would get a script. I'd contact some old agents of mine. I'd say, "Hey, listen, can you email me some scripts or something?" Or if I saw a commercial on TV that I liked and really sounded, and I TiVoed it, I'd go back and I'd transcribe it. And I would go into the booth every day as if I was going to work. And it's very important because you set your mind to that. And I also went in, and when it got to the point when I was auditioning, which you still do, you will never not stop auditioning. It's just the fact of life here. I auditioned as if I had the job. So I went in with the mentality that this is my job. This is my session. I even ran into my head, as crazy it may sound, I would kind of pretend and go in and say, "Okay, I've got this." And I'd go on and go, "Hey guys, how you doing? Nice to see you. How's the weather in Chicago?" or whatever. And I would know, having experience with doing, they're going to want you to do things different ways. So I'd read it and I'd say, "Okay, let's do a top to bottom read. Let's do this and that. All right, let me, you want me to do 3 in a row of that middle paragraph and make it a little bit more whatever it was." And I would work on this stuff. And I would do that even on a script. And I would work on it until I knew this was it. So I could do top to bottom on it, read it as if it was that, did at the time, if it was a 30-second spot and they were asking for 30 seconds, I would do it in 30 seconds or even less if it was TV, knowing that it's got to be a little bit less. All of that stuff, you got to kind of train it. When you have coaches, they will help you with that. I've got a great coach that I work with conversational reads. His name is Scott Parkin. He is like the master of conversational read, which I really, really need. I may sound conversational here, but 9 times out of 10, I get into booth, and then all of a sudden I'm adding a little bit of announced to it, and I'm not quite used to it because it's just something that I did 10 or 15 years ago. And, next thing he's going, no, sloppy it up. But one of the things that Scott works on, which is so critical, is he will make me and push me to go and do that script and read it from top to bottom in one take. None of this, okay, I'm doing the first paragraph and then I'm going to cut and paste it and do the second paragraph and cut and paste it and do all that stuff. He'd have a stopwatch, and he does it, and it's great. And sometimes it's super difficult. But you walk out of that session as if you just had a 1 hour recording session with a producer. So in lieu of a coach, that's stuff that you do so that when you do have the session and you go in there and you are working the producers, you own it. You already have done this. This isn't foreign to you. And so that's something that I would definitely, for people that are starting out, approach every audition as if it is a session. Approach every audition as if you were the right person for this, because awesome. that gets you into your mindset. That you are a winner. Really, you're not trying for this. You're gonna get it. So, I think that certainly helped me to get back into the game.
All right, Jason. Again, we're talking to Jason Watt here. You can find him on Twitter at jasonwattvo.com. I'm sorry, there's no .com in there. There is a jasonwatt.com, though. You can also reach him through there. Jason, this has been truly enlightening and really excellent to talk to you. I feel like I'm learning loads. You mentioned that you have worked with coaches to sort of work on maybe some specialties that you have, and you mentioned that conversational was one of your specialties. Do you have other specialties, and do you work with other specific coaches to earn those?
Well, I will preface by saying that really my specialty is kind of being a warm, likable, for want of a better word, announcer. That's really in the commercial world. That's my wheelhouse. Where I feel I need more work was in the conversational read, and that's why I've gone to Scott Parkin for that. And I also felt I really need to hone myself back into the promo world. And I use a guy, I use one coach right now named Jeff Howell out of Los Angeles, and he's extremely helpful. And in the goals of continual education and watching things, something I watch all the time is a great program that's produced out of California called VO Buzz Weekly, and they have all kind of guests, whether it's voiceover artists or producers, directors, you name it, and they're sharing so much information. I saw one just the other day. Harry Dunn, he's another promo producer. Really appeals to me, his approach. I think he produces out of the CW, and he teaches, and he's a coach. And one of the things that really appealed to me personally, and I haven't started working with him yet, I just kind of sent an inquiry saying I really want to work with you, was that I was looking at one of his testimonials, and it happens to be a really good friend of mine from back in New York, also a second generation voiceover guy, who is he's just a killer in the business. He is just everywhere. He is just, someday I hope to be like him. He is just awesome. Yet he still goes and gets coaching. And he gave a testimonial about how this guy has helped him out. So it doesn't matter what level you're at, it's very important. You got to be humble in this business, and you have to know that it's a great business to be in. And it's amazing that we can do this and get paid to do this. But take your ego and put it in the closet. Be humble and be grateful, and always be open for learning. I think that's critical to keep yourself in that mindset and to keep going in that direction.
Well, Jason, I was just about to ask you, how do you stay competitive? Excuse me. How do you stay competitive in the voiceover business? But I think it seems like you're touching on that already. It seems like you're saying you can't stop. You have to continue learning. You have to continue pushing, no matter who you are. If you're the Dave Courvoisier or the Don LaFontaine, you're saying there's always more to learn.
Absolutely. And everybody has their abilities. You know, that everybody has their number one of what they're great at. So you work on that, of course, but what you do is you work on the other parts of it so that you can be a triple or quadruple threat, so that you're a jack of all trades, so that if they need you to go in a different direction. You know, you might have been cast, and it's happened before. You might have been cast, yeah, we need this really kind of conversational. And then all of a sudden it becomes more. I mean, I have a major account right now that when I was cast for it over a year ago, when I started with it, it was a very kind of this kind of read. It was very kind of cool and kind of, dare I say, hip, but, you know, just kind of not conversational, but because, you know, it's selling cars, but it was very kind of mellow. And what happened was about 3 or 4 months into it, the client came back and said, we need more high energy. So we cranked it up a notch, and we need more high energy, and we cranked it up. Fortunately, I was able to do that and take it up to another notch. If I played you what my audition was versus what I was doing with the high energy, it's like night and day. So you become versatile in that way, but you do it by working it and working with coaches if you can, or just doing it on your own if you have that, if you're able to do that. You know, we're all able to do that, but I mean, you know, having that discipline and that focus to be able to do that.
Well, Jason, you mentioned a moment ago that you look up to some folks, and you know, I'm like I've mentioned many times before. There are people like me who look up to folks like you. So again, thank you for being here. It's a joy. It's truly a joy. You're my second interview, and I can't help but realize number two. I can't help but realize that I'm learning so much every time you say words. So this is great. Thank you so much, Jason. You mentioned, I'm not sure if you've mentioned any of the clients that you've worked with so far. Do you mind highlighting some of the people you've worked with recently or in the past?
Sure. The account I was referring to is AutoNation, and it is a car. It's not everywhere, but it's pretty much everywhere across the country. That's sort of a blessed right now. That's a blessed account for me. I mean, it is a monster account on many different levels. First of all, the client is amazing. The advertising agency and the people that I work with are absolutely amazing. But it's about every month for about a 2-week, there's a massive blitz where we just literally record about 100 to 150 spots, and we crank them out, and it's usually some sort of related to some sort of sale, whether it's a holiday. The company is AutoNation itself is great in that they actually just sold their 10 millionth vehicle. And so they're doing a promotional right now, and guess what they're giving away? $10 million. Can you believe that?
I thought it was going to be 10 million cars.
No.
I realized the math was not
dollars. But so, you know, this month it was all about that. But it's very specific, and I really have to just be well rested and take care of myself, because for usually a week to 10 days to 2 weeks, it's just nonstop. You know, you're doing 20 or 30 scripts a day usually. Then there's revisions that come in if something changes. So I am literally tethered to my studio during that time, and that's one of the clients I've had. I've done recently some stuff for Smashburger, which is a burger restaurant here.
I think we have one here in Chicago.
Yeah, I tend to, for some reason, I've gotten a couple of different medical things. People find me trusting. I guess I'm trusting. I just did something for they're out of where are they out of? Cincinnati, I think. Yeah, they're out of Cincinnati. It's Schneck Medical. Say that 10 times fast. Schneck Medical Center. And I was touting the benefits of getting a colonoscopy over 50. You don't have to worry about it. I know. But someone said I'm able to say Schneck pretty well. You know, so
it is good. It rings in my ear quite nicely.
And then I also did something for Hannibal Regional Medical Center. I tend to do. I'm somehow getting these medical things. Cool thing in Memphis. There's a Memphis Botanic Garden. This was both Schneck and Live. It's a series of concerts called Live at the Garden. It's a summer concert series at the Memphis Botanic Gardens. And that was cool because that was a return client. So I had recorded for them last year, and they called me just a few days ago, and I recorded that. So, you know, that's just kind of in a nutshell. But the AutoNation is the one that really is keeping me super busy, but in a very very amazing and blessed. I cannot emphasize that enough, how grateful I am for that, and how humbled that I've been given that opportunity. You know, it's been a wonderful client.
Absolutely. I find that, you know, I'm sort of new to the business, so I perhaps am scraping the bottom of the VO barrel per se. But even so, every step along the way, I'm finding that I'm learning. I'm picking up a lot of lessons, even for a voiceover that I do for just a few dollars. I'm learning lessons every step along the way. But, you know, those great clients, they come in, I say great, they're all great, but, you know, the clients who really help us pay all the bills that we really want to pay, they roll in, and those truly help make it worth it. And I'm glad to hear that a talented guy like you is getting great work.
Thank you. And it's important to note that every client that you approach, you should approach as a great client, no matter what, because you never know if you approach this job as something that you are, again, and I emphasize this a lot, just being grateful for it. But if you approach every client and you are yourself and you are the professional, and it doesn't matter if it's what you would consider a small job or a bigger job, you approach it with the same level of professionalism, the same amount of energy and the same amount of work and the same amount of focus. Because you, first of all, that's just the standard that I have, and that's the standard I grew up with. I mean, you know, that's what instilled me in my professional life and in my family, is that you work hard and you're honest and you do good work and you are a gentleman and you're very professional. Because you never know, that producer that you recorded that little radio spot for, or maybe that little web thing is all of a sudden moved to another company, and he remembers you. He remembers your skills. He remembers everything about you, and you get a call to do a bigger spot, and it may lead to that. And it just kind of trickles out. So you should always approach it. You know, every job is a great client, and it's a great job. And as you establish yourself, you know, you will start establishing your own certain levels of what you're willing to audition for, or what you're willing to what your rate would be in lieu of having an agent. Now I have an agent based in the Denver area. I have an agency that I work with there. That's the one agent that I have a contract with, but I do work with casting sites. Real-time casting in New York City is I'm on their roster, and you do pay to do it. But I don't look at it as paying to do it. I look at them providing me a service, and I think it's a worthy investment. And I work with a couple of different production houses across the country. But for the most part, you know, in lieu of having an agent, you have to establish your standards and your levels. And when you're starting out, I think the pay-to-play sites are a great avenue for you to get your chops and start building, because you have so many opportunities there. And maybe you'll see $100 job that you're going to take, but maybe a year from now, when you're really established, you're like, you know what? I don't do anything less than 200, so I'm not even going to audition for that. And you start to set little levels. I think it's important because as you grow and as you establish yourself, you have to know your worth, and you have to stick to knowing your worth. And we have to collectively, as an organization, or as a not an organization, but we have to collectively, as a group of professional voiceover artists, really do that. Especially if you're non-union and you don't have the regulation within the unions of set rates for it. You have to really set your own standards, and that's very important. And because you don't want to give all that hard work that you've done and all the sweat and all of that stuff and just give it away. So,
Jason, this has been an incredible interview. One of my goals of running this podcast is to take the things that my guests say and turn them into what I'm calling hashtag VO tips. And I share them through Twitter, through my one of my Twitter accounts. It's the hashtag VO podcast, the VO podcast. That's how you can find us. I say us, it's just me and the cats. You know, it's just that's the whole team. Yeah, I have 2 cats. I hear you have a barn cat. Is that right?
I have 1 feral cat, 3 horses, 5 dogs, and 2 goats. The horses are my wife. I mean, we share them together, but it all came from our work in animal rescue. They're all rescued animals. Every one of them we adopted or rescued. So we have a menagerie. It's our family. That's who we have here.
Well, I really like hearing that. And I know you were talking about earlier having to wake up every morning and I don't want to say having to wake up, but waking up every morning and going to work, even though you didn't have the work. And you mentioned going to your studio, and I'm knowing that you shared some photos of your studio, and boy, that is a good view.
It's a beautiful view, isn't it?
Good view. Yeah.
And it's funny. It's funny with that because my dogs, animals love routine, and my dogs now, it's become a routine. And even though if I don't have something first thing in the morning after my breakfast, I'm heading over to the stairs that head up to my studio, and my dogs are leading the way because they're not with me right now, but they usually sit behind me in this little chair here I have. And, or I'll say it's time to go to work, and they know, and they go right up the stairs and they sit behind me in my chair when I record. So I have to thank, actually, not my own self-discipline. I have to thank my dogs for keeping me consistent and getting into that mindset, which is critical. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. You have to believe in this, and you have to have the focus, and you have to have the drive. Because if you don't, your talent is not going to get you to where you want. The talent is only one thing, but you really, you have to take it to that next level. And you can learn so much out there with all these resources. I gave some of that out in terms of Dave Courvoisier's book. Terry Daniel is another great person out there. Scott Parkin is a coach, has been very helpful to me. Jeff Howell for promos, and I'm looking at this guy Harry Dunn as well. And there's VO Buzz Weekly. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much stuff out there. People are blogging, people are sharing. This community is amazing. It's the one thing that I miss. The old time going to a casting office and seeing all your friends and sharing stories and seeing pictures of their kids as, a newborn and meeting the casting, I missed that element of it, but you have it online. There's so many people out there willing to help you that are so generous in wanting to share their experience. And always remember, there is always enough work out there for everyone. You might not feel that if you're auditioning and you're not booking, but don't worry about it. You just keep on course and you will eventually book that, and know that you might have been 1 out of 100, 1 out of 1,000, 1 out of 5,000 that auditioned for that. You have no idea, but you just happen to be the number 1 for that one. And it's just so critical because this business is not for everyone. It's very hard because you will, I don't know the statistics. I think they talk about, on average, one every 100 auditions you book or something like that, whatever the numbers are. You can't look at the 99 you didn't get. You just have to look at the one that you did get and know that there's another one down the line. There's a kind of an interesting mental mindset that I learned from somebody that says, it says basically this: your focus and your drive, but basically your focus equals reality to the individual, even though it may not, even though it's not reality in actuality. Are you like, whoa, I don't, okay. What that kind of means is
hit the ball and I'll be right with you.
What's that?
I'm messing with you. Say it again.
Okay.
I'm sure you'll strike a couple more people if you say it one more time.
Focus equals reality to the individual, even though it's not reality in actuality.
Okay. Yeah.
So whatever you focus in on, you're going to have a feeling that comes with that, right? You're about to go on a big vacation and you're nervous about flying, right? And you're nervous about flying, so you put all your energy into, oh my gosh, I'm nervous about flying, instead of putting all your focus into, oh my gosh, I'm going on this amazing trip, right? Well, I have it here. Oh, sorry. Hang on one second here. I did a recording here. Let me just go back to my workstation here.
That's cool.
And then I'll hit that again.
That's cool.
I'll hem on that again. Okay. So what that kind of means, here I go again. Sorry. Tracks. Hang on. Technical difficulties.
This guy's working when he's not even working. Look at him.
Yeah, really. What do I got here? Let's see if I got it right here.
We're fine. No stress.
Try it one more time.
This all gets edited out. All our viewers are getting really upset with you, Jason.
I know. Gosh, this whole thing I was working on about being liked by everybody. Sorry. So, this is a total mindset. You are creating. Your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not real. You know that. I mean, and maybe you don't know that. So when you say something like focus equals reality to the individual, even though it's not reality in actuality, whatever you're focusing in on, you're going to feel it whether it's true or not, because your brain doesn't know the difference between something that you vividly imagine or what you're focusing on or something that you actually experience. Right? How many times have you had a nightmare and your heart's racing and everything else, and it's not real, but as far as you know, you're waking up and you think you're drowning or whatever's happening because your mind doesn't know the difference. And this was kind of what I did before. I put myself in the mentality that I was a full-time working voiceover artist before I was. I created that. I soon made that reality a reality. And this is a way that you can change how you feel, and it's important because this is a tough business, and you can get depressed, and you can get frustrated, and you could just say, it's not worth it. You just change your mindset. You look at all the successes you had. You look at all the progress. You go back into your booth, even though you may have not gotten a job, and you start working on it, and you pretend that you have that job. It may sound crazy, and maybe it is crazy, but it's something that I did. So for the 18 months, more or less, before I could say, hey, I'm a full-time voiceover artist, I said to myself, I was a full-time voiceover artist. Every day I went to work. Every day I came up to the studio, whether or not I had anything. And that was the focus and the discipline that you have. And then when I was able to and started investing in coaching or reading the books and all of that stuff. So that's maybe a little esoteric, but it's something that I learned from someone else, and it's a very it's a positive. It's certainly worked very positive for me. So,
Hey, well, Jason, from where I'm standing, it seems a perfect piece of advice for anyone, just about in any field. Our reality is what we make it, and sometimes if our reality isn't what we want it to be, you got to fake it till you make it a little bit. You gotta work your way towards your goals, and I think you're implying that you have to set goals along the way. And
absolutely,
very good.
absolutely.
So in terms of making your reality, you've spoken about getting clients through your through many different ways. Maybe we'll wrap this up here in a little bit, but maybe just maybe a final idea here. How do you earn new clients and build those relationships? Any tips for those viewers out there who might be wondering?
A lot of, I think a lot of how I've earned them is through the initial audition of booking it and then keeping a client and having really good agents that get me good opportunities. I think that in going back to what you were saying, fake it till you make it. You fake it till you make it. Yes. You do that to yourself, though. You never want to misrepresent yourself in the public. You don't want to go out and say, "Hey, listen, I'm doing this, this, and this, and this," and it's not. Okay, you have to approach everything from a level of truth. It's in your own private time. You fake it until you make it, for want of a better word. You create that. I set goals. I set weekly goals. I set daily goals. I still do. I set weekly goals on how many auditions I'm going to get this week, how many bookings I might get for the month, how much money I'm going to make at the end of the year. And I set way unreasonable, crazy goals. And in some respects, I've met them. I've said, I'm going to make this amount of money by the end of the year. And I did. And then some more. Okay. I'm not doing anything different other than putting that out there. And I'm saying, this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to connect with coaches. I'm going to read those blogs. I'm going to reach out to agents. I'm going to work with another element is putting together a great demo. And there's some great people out there. I would recommend offhand. I know of probably one that I'm kind of working with. I haven't quite gotten there yet. His name is Chuck Duran, and he's the person that actually produces the VO Buzz Weekly. But there's, he's a great demo producer. You have to, that's how you create it. Best example of faking it till you make it is you create that commercial that you wanted to do, and you work with an engineer and a professional. So it's that level. So when that agent or that producer that goes to your website or listen, and I'm in favor of people putting out websites because it's a resource that they can go to. They'll listen to that demo and they'll hear you do that spot for whatever it is, even though you didn't do it, but you did. And they'll go, I can see him doing that, or I could see her doing that. And that's one way you do it. That's how you market yourself. These guys, like Dave and Terry and these guys, and there's many others, they're masters in social media. I'm not as good. I'm still kind of the old school of relying on my agents and relying on the casting sites. That's pretty much what I've done. I'm interested in that, and I'm looking forward to getting into that world. It would be great. And I look forward to the time that I will book a job because somebody contacted me on Twitter or Facebook or whatever it may be. I mean, someday it'll happen. I mean, this is a whole new exciting world that we're in, and there's so many opportunities out there. So just go out and just go for it and be determined and focused. And if you want to be in this business, knowing how tough it is, knowing that, you might get 1 out of 100 auditions and you're okay with it, and you're willing to do that, then just go all in, totally commit to it.
Jason, I feel like, I mean, no offense by saying this, but I feel like you're my wet towel of knowledge, and I'm wringing you dry here. Is there anything else you would like to share? Any other lasting tips you'd like to share with the VO community?
Just kind of what I just said. I think I came back into the business really having to almost start from scratch in terms of where do you get work? How do you get the agents? I was in New York City before, so having an agent in New York after many years wasn't an issue. But then when I moved out, I'm now considered a remote talent, quote unquote. And I had always heard about these guys, the remote talent, and realized that there's tremendously talented remote talent out there in all places of the country. And some of the biggest money makers, some of the biggest successful people in the voiceover world do not live in New York or Los Angeles or Chicago, for that matter. They live in other areas. Just figure out what you want to do. Come up with a plan. Be disciplined with it. Set goals. Set daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, and go out and set them. And you might not make them all, but just keep pushing at it, because before you know it, you're going to set that unreasonable goal and say, I'm going to have, 5 bookings this week. And one time you're going to get 5 bookings and you're going to go, wow, okay, I'm at that. So I guess I'm going to make 10 bookings now this week. And you just keep setting the bar higher and higher and higher. Take advantage of all the resources that are out there. I can't emphasize that enough. There's so many fellow voiceover artists and coaches that are willing to help you, and they will help you navigate through their experiences, especially with the people out there that want to take advantage of you. So trust those people and believe in yourself, and you will become the person that you want to be.
Jason, I can't think of a better note to end the show on. I want to say thank you once again from myself and my cat Brewster, who's sneaking on the couch over there, the little handsome little guy. For myself, and I'm hoping someone else will tune in someday and realize to themselves, oh my gosh, I'm learning from what these folks are saying, and I'm glad that I have someone like you on the show to learn from. So thank you once again, Jason. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, and I'm excited. I can't wait to see some more of your shows, of course, and I'm going to be watching you. And I thank you so much for having me on the show.
It's all my pleasure. All my pleasure, Jason. I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast now. We hope to talk to you soon. Thanks.
All right. Thanks again.
All right.